evil witchy grandma, which I ate up. Juliette and Cal are making out. Hot. So our first episode is definitely a hard stopper, not to say the least. Okay, I start work in about an hour, so let's make this quick, shall we? Hi, hello, my name is Tiana. Welcome back to my quarterly internet. Today's video is all about sapphic vampires. Well, one vampire and one vampire hunter. Nonetheless, I just finished First Kill, a show that Netflix produced and aired on their platform, and I finished it. I gotta talk about it, so here we are. My name's Tiana. I create bookish content that might make you laugh, and occasionally I watch Netflix way too much and I have to talk to someone about it, so that's why you're here today. I'm hoping, and I'm saying this right now, if you want a second season, that it all depends on the numbers of who finished it and started it from start to finish. So that is within the first 2 weeks, meaning you have another week to get the show on the road and to hopefully have Netflix, you know, purchase for a second season. Nonetheless, I'm here to talk about the chaotic energy that this show was, and I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're looking for like good CGI effects, the CGI was a thought and a prayer. Point blank, period. It's mostly plot, it's mostly evil witchy grandma, which I ate up. This show is in Savannah, Georgia, and I was born in Austell, Georgia, so like I am very familiar with Georgians. Florida peach, not Florida peaches, it's Florida oranges, Georgia peaches. We are in a world where monsters are known to exist, however, humans live in fear of them, and there's like this like bigotry like plot line that happens at the end of the season. But for some non-spoilery context, our main character Juliette is a vampire, and she's a legacy vampire. We don't really go into what a legacy vampire is particularly in this season. Just know that when you're thinking of Vampire Diaries and how the Michelsons have special abilities and whatnot, think in that realm aspect. But they also have certain powers and abilities that we get to explore with a set of twins in this show. Our set of twins are Oliver and Elinor. One of them is crazy, one of them is not. Good luck figuring out who that is, because they both are. But who's more crazier is the theme that we're exploring in this season and hopefully in the show as hopefully it progresses. And then Juliette, vampire legacy, comes from family legacies. And I like how in this show, vampire lineages are matriarchal, because we hardly ever get to see true matriarchy in the sense that we get to see strong women, but we don't get to see chaotic, lethal women who also run the household. So I love this. And the offset of that coin is our love interest, Calliope, Cal. She also comes from a family, she comes from a family of hunters, and she also comes from a family where it's matriarchal led. And I was disappointed to see the father figure in her family. Like, he loves her, baby girl, all that jazz, but he's half there. He has one foot out the door and one foot in the home, and part of it is his work. You know, black girls deserve to have present fathers, but you know, reality of work and the nature of the show, I understand where her father is coming from. And Calliope has two brothers, Theo and Apollo. Apollo definitely, I would say, lives up to the archetype that Rick Riordan has created for Apollo in the Trials of Apollo series. He's definitely a curious mind, too curious at some times, and just can't know when to quit. He's definitely a Virgo, I believe. And then we have Theo. He is definitely a prideful, strong, stable brother. I would say he's the oldest, but you know, you never know with how older and middle siblings react to each other. And they all have different moms, I presume. I think maybe Apollo and Calliope have the same mom and different dad, I could be mistaken. And then Theo, the mom in this show is not his mom, and you get to see the love of Talia and, you know, her adoptive son. But you know, that's not the word adopt never comes up, the word stepson never comes up. It's mainly like, you are my son, I raised you since you were 7, and you know, I am a black mom, and that's point blank, period, bitch. And then we have Talia. I liked her character, but sometimes there were inconsistencies within her dialogue, because in the beginning she busted out her sons for cursing, and then throughout the show it's like, god damn it, shit, and I'm like, okay, no, like you can't do that. Maybe to some extent, but it's just like, you can't have that poignant conversation. That's how we meet your character, and then we're just loose like a cannon. That was just an inconsistency on my part that I noticed out the gate, and I'm like, listen, I don't care if you curse, but like at the same time, don't fuss out your son for cursing and then do the same thing. That's what I just picked up right off the gate, and I was like, ooh girl, no. Take it back. That didn't need to be said. So our first episode is definitely a heart stopper, not to say the least. And there were references on Twitter, or there were tweets on Twitter of like the buzz or the hype about Elinor having a lipstick being titled Heartstopper, but I would not say that it was a Heartstopper show reference, more so in the line of the conversation, and how Elinor is saying, hey sweet little, you need to have your first kill, and vampires are Heartstoppers. They kill to survive, they feed to live, whatnot, and they're undead. That's what I thought that reference was. I would love to know your thoughts in the comments down below, but I don't think it was a Heartstopper reference. And then this first episode, it was a good introductory episode. There was a lot of there was a lot of showing and not telling, which is a very consistent problem Netflix sometimes has with storytelling. They just tell you information with like voiceovers and, you know, inner monologue, whereas this show, you definitely understand Elinor's OCD in killing people. You understand the matriarchy of the family. You understand Calliope's family dynamic and wanting to prove herself with her first kill. You just understand with simple interactions and inner workings and just snide look. Like, it was just so good in the telling, and that's how you know that V. Schwab's touch was on this, because I'm telling you, Netflix, sometimes the original shows just flop because of the overtelling. I don't need that. I'm here for the hour, for the episode. You choose how you use that hour. Don't waste valuable screen time on telling when you can show. That's what makes a show, in my opinion, when you can use every element, looks, glances, even the setting, because Georgia definitely does play a role in this, I believe, because with Southern culture, it's definitely, you know, what lies in the cemetery at night, and, you know, let's lean into, you know, using Christianity as a pillar to defend against those demons of the night. So I definitely was a fan. They didn't use religion in this show, I would not say so. Definitely in the sense of setting the scene of suburban kids, and they went to an academy, so they definitely really chose and eloquently executed on the showing part instead of the telling part. Again, this first episode ended with a Heartstopper, boom bada boom. Juliette and Cal are making out, hot, and Calliope just stabs Juliette, and I was like, oh, we're just coming out the gate swinging. There's no like weird awkward Bella and Edward thing. It was just, hey, I know you're a vampire, you're gonna die. Calliope, in the hunter world, you have to have your first kill, and when she had the initiating event to have her first kill, she choked up because the monster was wearing her mom's face, and that can trigger someone for sure, because your attempted killer was wearing your mom's face. That can leave a mark on you and definitely have you lose some faith in humanity. We see Juliette tackling and grappling with her humanity because she's been able to live a normal teenage life up until the point that she turned 16, and now she has to have her first kill. So there's one Calliope who's egging to have her first kill just so she can be a protector and prove her worth to her family. Then there's Juliette, who's just like, hey, I don't want to do that. Can I skip? Can I pass go and collect $100? No? Okay. So I definitely will see and expect more of Calliope. It's like have a come to Jesus meeting with herself and understand her humanity, because if she's saying to protect us to kill, but Juliette is saying, no, step into yourself and embrace your humanity and your humility. That's what a person makes. So it's definitely a morality thing going on in this show. You had to throw in some sapphic-ness to get the show going. And like in my notes, I literally wrote, when they were making out for like 5 minutes, I wrote, they're emphasizing sapphic. And definitely at the beginning of the show, there's like this montage, between Juliette and her best friend Ben, to emphasize the point that this show is queer, and if you're uncomfortable with that, get the fuck out now. But that is all like one episode. Throughout the entire rest of the series, it's just like foot on your neck nonstop, let's get this party going. So we let's focus on Elinor and Oliver for a second, because I think in episode 2 we hint at an evil twin, and because it's a matriarchy, I just assumed that we were egging the men out of the family, to be honest, because one, the dad is half human, he's half maid, so basically he's a vampire turned, or he's a human turned vampire, whereas the legacies are born into being a vampire. So I'm like, maybe they just, maybe wink is link, maybe they just, you know, kicked him out. But then I heard that Oliver's a psychopath. So then now I'm questioning, okay, if you're telling me this, where are you directing me to believe, so we can do a good old switcheroo at the end of the season? It definitely was a switcheroo, but I also think they're both not mentally there, because he wants to raise a monster army, because at the beginning of the show we blanketly state there are monsters coming back that haven't been there for decades, so why are they coming back? Of course, now there's a witch in town, Oliver's dating said witch, and at the end of the season you're like, oh, interesante, muy caliente. Like, it was just very spicy, and it was just like, oh wait, shit, we going to war. Yeah, that's Oliver and Elinor have this weird power play sibling relationship, because Elinor, again, matriarchy, she is the keeper of the Malakane. I think it's the snake that they use to become vampires, or full-fledged vampires within the legacy community. And they definitely led into that Garden of Eden storyline between when Lilith was bit by the snake. That's how vampires were created, and that's the storyline in the origin story that route that way. She's just power hungry. She works in the DA's office. She always wears pink. It's like, if I were to describe her, it would be Regina George from the Mean Girls musical, because she just plays into it, whereas the show is just like, it's iconic. Or in the movie it's iconic. Bravo, it's like she definitely plays into it and leads into it to have that good old bait and switch into having people believe she's all sweet and nice, but then also like, no, thoughts were thought, that violence was led, and boom bada boom. Oliver, we don't know much about him. We just know that he wants to protect his sister, like get her on his side, and now he's taking in Theo. Mind you, oh yeah, that part. So Theo's now a vampire. That's unfortunate. When Cal and Juliette are doing cool, great, dandy, of course Apollo starts messing with Elinor, and while they're in the bathroom, Theo finds them and violence ensues. So Elinor's in front, Theo's behind holding her back, and then Apollo goes straight for the kill, and then Elinor leaves and she stabs Apollo. So now that Theo's dying, when Cal and Juliette are just doing good, and now Juliette's sibling is now responsible for her lover's brother's death, the relationship is now in rocky trouble. So to plead, or to appeal to his last dying wish, Juliette saves him and she drains him, but she turns him into a vampire. Talia and her husband now have the guild's back onto them. Like, they're like, hey, you can't be consolidating with vampires. You're monster hunters. Do your job and don't let your daughter, you know, mess around with a vampire. Duh. Have you not seen Romeo and Juliet? We're not repeating this shit again. So now that Talia is like, I'm not gonna let my son die. He's my son. I've raised him since he was 7. He's not an adult. I can't let my husband kill him. She calls Oliver, and she's just like, hey, you take care of him. You teach him the rules of the road. Now we have these hunters who, again, have been traumatized throughout their entire life and have lost baby mamas and aunts and uncles to this legacy family, are now trusting legacy family. So it'll definitely be a civil war and an all-out war in season 2, or just what I presume. There's just the elements of the show that I'm just like, we can go into more here, particularly the grandma. We mentioned the grandma like episode 2 or 3, and just the tone that the mother says grandma, I was like, oh, she's gonna bring in the heat. Grandma, Granny, oh, she gonna raise hell. And she sure did. I wanted more of her. We just kill her off. And part of me is like, maybe like her soul or her essence is in her father, because the father's about to die, and Eleanor's like, hey grandma, I'll trade my soul away if you help dad out. And she's like, cool, great dandy, no problem, my sweet lover. I'll save your dad, but you have to go marry, like you have to do an arranged marriage. Eleanor's like, cool. So then when the tensions get high in their arranged marriage agreements, her dad just eats the grandma. And I'm like, I wanted more of her. She was chaotic and violent. I just had a video of you know, chaotic, morally gray women. I wanted more of that in this season because, hello, vampire. We are at the end of this season. The Council of the Legacies that appointed the family to be the guardian, the keeper of the Malakane. Mama is now in charge, and the council is now calling grandma to come in because she's been illegitimate and irresponsible in her role as the keeper of the Malakane, and everyone's, you know, they're petitioning for power. So I'm thinking that maybe either Elinor will raise hell and break out of prison, because she's in prison now for, you know, killing hundreds of people, because she's a screws loose in her head, and she just has this violent streak going on. And Oliver wanted Elinor to go to jail, so like she's just playing right into his hands, and that's scary, because if he predicted just even the slightest inkling that she would go to jail for, you know, multiple accounts, because sometimes when you kill children, they will add on the life of that child's they'll add the child's lifespan onto your sentence. So like they won't sentence you to death or like for life in prison, but they'll definitely add on, like, you know, 10 counts of a child's life onto your sentence. So I'm just like, damn bitch, and you a vampire, you can't go nowhere. But the hard part is they can't sentence her to death because they don't know how to kill a legacy vampire. So as I mentioned, Juliette and Cal are in rocky ground because of Elinor killing Theo, and now Theo being a vampire, and Cal hates vampires to some degree. But you know, Theo also hates vampires because his mom was killed by a vampire. We get to explore that he was hunting for his mom's killer because he wants to know, and that kind of leads him in this down spiral that got him there in the first place of hunting Elinor and getting involved with Apollo. Again, there's this gray area there that hopefully will be cleared up in season 2, or maybe V. Schwab will get a book deal after this, who knows, because I would definitely like to, you know, explore more of that. And I'm not a V. Schwab reader gal. No, I tried reading one of her books. I got through like the first 2 hours of the audiobook, and I DNF'd it, so don't come for me, girlies, okay? If the event that Netflix is like, will pass, which is unfortunate, it's really good. Yeah, I'll definitely read the books because there's just more world building that needs to be explored, and, you know, relationships and new alliances have been made. That's interesting and intriguing and devastating for Cal and Juliette. This show, I definitely gave it like B+ leaning into A. I feel like I want to give it an A. It's just that beginning episode that maybe it was just filmed in the beginning and like they sold it, then they filmed the rest of it, and then maybe that's what happened, because there was like 5 songs in the beginning of the episode. Like it was not even like 5 minutes into the show and we had heard 5 songs. So yeah, definitely give this an A. I think it's just the music that pissed me off, and again, I'm not taking points off for the CGI. I definitely think that Netflix allocated money for the writing, something that I lead into, not for the CGI. Listen, I watched Vampire Diaries in 17 days, the entire season, 17 days. I didn't expect for Netflix to have the budget for this show, for one, also for a 4 or 5 time New York Times bestselling author, international bestselling author at that too. So like that was okay for me. I definitely think that if you are still on the fence after watching this chaotic, you know, impromptu video of my thoughts on this show, definitely go watch it and like go experience it for yourself. I think that Netflix is gearing itself up to redefine its platform, as we saw like 200,000 subscribers left the platform because their content just isn't that good anymore, and 2, priced around like $20, and there's discussions of adding ads to the platform. So definitely be on the lookout for good content coming out this summer from Netflix, because Umbrella Academy season 3 comes out. Look out for a video from me. And then School of Good and Evil comes out, I think this fall or maybe in the end of August. I can't be sure. So there's definitely good content coming out. It's just a matter of the consistency of said content and the production of said content, in the sense that, are you showing or are you telling your story? And this show definitely did a good sense of showing and telling. So yeah, that brings me to the end of this video. If you want to chat down below, you are more than welcome to. I have a Goodreads, Storygraph, Instagram, and Twitter, so follow me there down below. And I have a wish list and a GoFundMe for school. And that is enough for my soapbox. I will catch you in the next one. Bye!